afternoon, kiddos. Welcome to Skitty's Gardening Show. I am Skittles the cat, and I am here to teach you everything I know about gardening. Today, we are going to create a terrarium from plants that we find locally in our own backyard. What is a terrarium, you say? I've brought in Mr. Felix B. Pippertons, your local terrarium expert, to help us build our terrarium.
Mr. Peeps here. A terrarium is a collection of small plants growing in a sealed bottle. Because the plants exist in an enclosed environment, this is a really cool way to look at an ecosystem. Inside a terrarium's walls, many different natural processes occur, such as photosynthesis, respiration, and the water cycle can all be observed.
Isn't that cool? Let me show you my terrarium.
The water in the terrarium is constantly recycled, passing from liquid to gas and back again.
Is that why there is water on the walls of my terrarium?
Yes. As the moisture in the air condensates on the glass walls, it returns to the soil and is absorbed by the plant's roots.
Mr. Pippertons, what kind of materials will we need today?
The materials you will need today are a clear, sealable container, small stones, charcoal, moss, potting soil, twigs or bark, little plants.
Ask your parents if they can help you figure out how to make a charcoal. Remember, kiddos, safety first.
I can't go shopping at the store because I'm a cat. So today we are going to find our own supplies in our own backyard. If you live in an apartment, like I used to, ask your parent or guardian to take you to the park. You would be amazed at what you could find.
Before you get started, ask your parents if they have a spare jar lying around the house that they don't mind you use. It can be a mason jar or a recycled jar from yesterday's spaghetti. Anything that is clear and that seals is perfect. Get a small bag or container to carry your supplies. You don't want to carry a bunch of dirt in your pocket, do you?
I'd rather not. Mr. Pitts, what should we do next?
Now that you have your jar and container, my assistant, Miss Campbell, is going to help you start gathering some of the items from the materials list.
The first thing that we are going to look for are plants. Look for little teeny tiny ones that you think look interesting. Keep your eyes out for moths and lichens. I think those are going to be the hardest to find. Moths can be found in places that get a lot of shade and water, so check the side of your house. Lichens can be found on wood. At my house, they like to grow on tree branches. I'm not seeing any here, but we are going to keep our eyes out. All right, little plants, where are you? I'm not seeing any tiny plants here. These old bikes are kind of cool to look at, though. Here's a little plant. When we pull the plant up, we need to make sure that we pull it up by its roots. If it is too hard to pull, sometimes you can pour a little water around it first, and then it'll be easier to pull up. That's one reason why I like pulling weeds after it rains. This is a lot like a treasure hunt. I'm finding so many neat-looking plants.
It is, isn't it? That's one reason I originally got into horticulture. Even though I am blind and can't see how the plants look, they have such a huge variety of smell and texture. Plants are amazing, aren't they, Skitty?
Yes, Mr. Pippertons. I'm learning so much today just by looking at the plants in my backyard. It's so cool. Oh wow, I found moss. Let's clear up some of this grass so we can get to it. Wow, look at all the plants we've gathered so far. Another little garden that I have been growing lately are succulents, so I'm going to grab a few ones to put into my terrarium. I don't know how they will do with the other plants I've chosen, but experimenting is a good thing to do when it comes to terrariums. In order to get a terrarium to be healthy, you have to find a good balance with all the plants that you put in and the amount of water. Okay, we found all of the plants that I want to use. Let's go look for some of our dry items, like rocks. I'm not seeing any here. I think I saw some toward the front of the house, so let's go look there. Wow! I didn't even know there were rocks near here. It looks like they may have originally been concrete. Maybe from the foundation of the house. There's quite a few of them. Okay, now let's look for twigs, bark, and lichens. I wasn't necessarily looking for pine cones, but I like them, and they look pretty tiny, so let's grab a few for the terrarium. Next, we are going to look for sand. I don't have a sandbox or anything like that, but we are going to look for something that's similar to sand that has little teeny tiny rocks in it. Oh look, here's sand. Okay, now that we've gathered all of our things for our terrarium, let's bring them inside to assemble it. Miss Campbell is going to help us put it all together.
Hi everyone, Miss Campbell here. Welcome to my art studio. Did you know crafting terrariums is considered to be an art form? Now that we have all of our materials, let's start assembling our terrarium. I have a weirdly shaped bottle today. It has a small spout, so I've gathered a few homemade tools to help put the plants in. First, we're going to start out by putting in rocks. And the rocks will prevent the plant from drowning. Next, we're going to put in the sand. The sand will gather around the rocks to create another layer so that our soil has something to sit on. This is sometimes called a false bottom. So in order to get the sand in, we are going to take a piece of paper and roll it up to create a funnel. We don't want to spill dirt everywhere, so the funnel will help us get all of the dirt into our bottle. If the dirt isn't flowing through the funnel quick enough for you, you can cut the tip off and make a wider opening. Next, we're going to put in charcoal. If you don't have charcoal, that's okay. You can put the soil in next, which is what I'm doing. So next you can take either a chopstick or a stick that you found in your yard and kind of push the soil around so that it covers up all of the sand and rocks. Perfect. Then we're going to spray a little teeny tiny bit of water in there. Not too much. We don't want to drown our plants. The first thing I want to put in is the moss. This will help create a blanket level. We might have to move it around or take some out if some of the plants aren't fitting in correctly. Now just spray a little teeny tiny bit of water again, just to wet the moss. My terrarium is getting a little bit cloudy, so I've taken 2 skewers made of bamboo, rubber banded them at the top, and created giant tweezers. Then I wrapped the tweezers, the tip of the tweezers, in paper towel to wipe some of the water off. Next, I'm putting in some grass that I found and the pine cones. We're going to try a little bit of this plant and put that in. Make sure that the root system is still on it. Don't cut the roots off. You might have seen me cut a piece of the plant off, but I made sure that the roots were still intact. Next, I'm trying to put the succulent in, but it seems to be a little bit too big. I'm having some problems wedging it in around that plant that I got in first. So I'm taking my tweezers that I got from my bathroom and I'm moving it around. Here's another succulent. I'm going to try and put that one in too, but we'll see. Oh, so this one isn't really fitting very well, and I've decided to take some of the larger plant out so that I can move things around, and then I'm going to put it back in afterward. Alright, so the succulent first now, and try and get that buried in. And then the big plant. When you have bottles with a very thin neck like this one, it's going to be really hard to maneuver things, but don't give up. You'll have to put the plants in and then take them back out to see what fits first. And sometimes some of the plants that you gathered and that you really wanted won't fit in that bottle, but you can always find a different bottle and make a second terrarium. Here's another succulent that I'm going to put in. I really like this one because it's orange. With succulents, you can take some of the outside leaves off and it will still grow just fine, just like normal plants. Just make sure that you leave some of the leaves on there. You can't propagate your succulents if you have all of the leaves missing, because it still needs to photosynthesize. Alright, here's a branch that I put in, and a pine cone. Move things around a little bit, spray it. I might have a little bit of water, a little too much water in there, but we're gonna see. If you accidentally put too much water in your terrarium, you can always leave it hanging out without the cap on, and that will help get some of the excess water out. It'll turn into a vapor, and then it'll exit the top of your terrarium. And we're still shuffling things around. So remember, just don't give up. I got really frustrated with this one because of how hard it was, but looking at it now, I think it's turning out really cool. I plan on putting roly-polies in there later for me and Skitty to look at. To add in a little bit of like miniature compost, I took a used tea bag from this breakfast tea that I used this morning, and I put it in. I pinched it in first. I tried dumping it through the funnel, but that didn't really work out. So don't do this right now that I'm doing. It ends up making a huge mess, and then you're gonna have to go through with a piece of paper towel and wipe all the little excess pieces of tea off, but if you pinch it and place it in towards the soil, that works great. I am putting in way too much water right now, so don't add in too much water. That will kill your terrarium. You just want a few sprays and that's it. It's always better to underwater your plants than to overwater them, because if you overwater them, that will contribute to root rot. And you definitely don't want to do that. That will kill all of your plants. Alright, I'm putting in some more twigs and branches that I found. Some of these branches did have lichen on them. Lichen is a little plant that grows along the edge of wood. It's gold and green sometimes and yellow. It's really pretty, like a sunset. Alright. And then you can cap it and kind of look to see if you like it or not. And that is done. We are all done with this terrarium. Let's get a closer look. As you can see, I've wiped off all of the excess tea leaves and cleaned it up with that paper towel that I was telling you about. It does look really soaked in there. Like I said, I did have problems with the plants getting too much water after this video was shot, so you want to make sure you only start out with a little bit of water and see how your plants are doing, so that they don't end up drowning like mine did. But again, if you do accidentally put in too much water, just leave the cap off for a day. Alright, I really like bugs. And my favorite bug in general is the roly-poly, so I'm grabbing one of those just to look at for a day, and I'm going to put it in my terrarium. Tomorrow, after I've gotten a really good look at my roly-poly and studied it a little bit and done some drawings of it, I'm going to put it right back where I found it, into the garden, so it can be really happy. If you want to feed your roly-poly, you can always put in little slices of potato and it will love it.
Alright everyone, thank you for coming to Skitty's gardening show. I'm Skittles the cat, and we'll see you next time.